and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
From the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys Studios.
Have you been in an accident? Call Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys at 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Real Radio 92.1 is WZZR West Palm Beach, an iHeartRadio station.
Download the free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
Hey, hold on here one second. What's going on? Hello, Jimothy. Can you hear us? Jimothy?
It would be the top one. If it were the ante,
we're not on air.
With bold espresso, subtle brown butter.
We're live on Facebook.
Yes, we're live on Facebook, guys, and YouTube, just so you know. Hey, everybody. I'm sorry. We're having huge technical difficulties right now. We're trying to work it. We thought we had it worked out. We were going to do the last hour, but so we're live on Facebook, but we're not live.
Yeah,
well, we're kind of live on the radio. We think we don't. No,
it's not even a rerun.
Okay, I'm going to call Jimothy.
Let me
sorry, all you Facebook fans and YouTube fans. Sorry about that. Welcome, Happy New Year. We were going to do end of the year wrap up and a couple other things, but we're having some tough. Jimothy says we're on the air right now. Okay, so we're on, Johnny.
Okay, well, welcome to one of the most interesting Saturdays that we've had in 11 years of Florida Talk Real Estate history. I'm Johnny C., your air traffic controller.
I just heard the
intro
music.
now.
I was listening to it. I turned it on to see what was.
Gotcha. All right. Well, irky jerky as it can possibly be. I'm pretty confident I can give you the toll-free number if you have questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate. We got about an hour for you on this Saturday. 877-927-6969. Florida Talk Real Estate is also a .com, your one-stop real estate shop, and we go live stream when we can on a Saturday. Facebook and YouTube, Florida Talk Real Estate on both. Thanks for being with us. Of course, if you're on the old terrestrial radio, 92.1, 101.7, great to have you with us. The free download, your iHeartRadio app. Thank you for choosing to be with us on a Saturday morning. And, of course, like I said, those two stream options you can find Facebook and YouTube. Johnny C., that's me. Say good morning to Mike Rao, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. Hello, Michael. How are you, my friend?
It's all right, doing good. I was listening to the radio feed. So, yeah, we are live on the air. We just can't hear it on this feed. So I'm doing great this morning. Happy New Year, Johnny.
Well, Happy New Year to you, my friend. Let's say good morning to Ross Camaronets, Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. Ross, what's up?
Not a whole lot. It's, little technical difficulties, but seems like we pulled it together, Happy anniversary.
That's what I'm talking about. I was really hoping I was going to show up this morning And I tell you guys, I hate the Mega Millions, but it looks like it's like 1.1 billion for next Tuesday. So at least we have something to look forward to. Let's say good morning to Jimmy D, our fearless leader. Ross said happy anniversary. We kind of are celebrating a little bit today. It's going to be a big bash in a couple weeks, but a little celebration, small little taste of celebration. Jimmy D's been our fearless leader here for 11 years of Florida Talk Real Estate. And I've told you for those years that he runs a top producing Keller Williams team. You find that team with Keller Williams Innovations. It's the Florida Home Pros team. Jim DePola, Jimmy D, how you be?
Hey, I'm doing great, Johnny. Jimmy's just asking if we can hear him right now, and we cannot hear you, just so you know, Timothy.
How about now?
Thank you for telling us that we're
Yeah,
live.
got you now.
Oh, now we can hear you.
Yes? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now. Okay. Happy New Year, Timothy. Happy New Year, Johnny, Mike,
Happy New
Ross.
Year.
How's it going? How you doing? You guys doing good?
Happy. Merry New Year.
So today was supposed to be a big day. So everybody that was supposed to call in today, I'd appreciate it if you could hold off on those calls. We were going to do an 11th anniversary show special. You know, it was kind of important for me to do this year because last year we really didn't have a chance to do our 10th anniversary for real the way I wanted to, because I was going through, and I had never really talked about this before, but I had been going through a lot of health issues over the last two years or so. And during that time, I got a really bad medical diagnosis right around the 10th anniversary. And it was just very tough to even cope and come to work and do this show every week. And I got really excellent news from my surgeon this Tuesday. And I feel so blessed that I'm in such a different place than I was a year ago. And I want to do a special show to thank everybody for being there as listeners and fans and customers and helping us out through all the stuff I went through, and to just show what a rich, diverse group of people that we work with through the years. And it's so much fun. So I can't wait till we do that show, but we're going to have to push that off for a couple weeks. But can you believe it? I was thinking about this today. 11 years, right? 11 years on this show on WZZR, WCZ. I always say that wrong, Johnny. WCZR or CZR?
CZR too.
How could I get that wrong? I get it wrong. ZZ 101.7.
Yeah, CZR.
That's what I remember. 101.7, 92.1. 11 years. Do you know what, guys? We probably broke our 500. I was thinking about this a couple days ago. We probably broke our 500th show. 500 shows. Probably sometime last summer. Right? Because if you figure 52 weeks in a year, 11 years, right? How many is that, Mike? That's 500.
Oh, geez. It's at least 500.
572.
Yeah, 572. And I don't think that we missed 72 shows over 11 years. I don't think that we missed 72 weeks.
No way.
No way that we did that. So we broke 500 shows a while back. Can you imagine 500 shows? We have hundreds of hours of podcasts floating around on the iHeart Media app. If you wanted to listen to stuff, if you want to listen to stuff about, I wonder what was going on in, September 8th, 2015, you could go to that iHeart Radio app and pull it up and listen to it. It's kind of cool. If you guys like this stuff, it's there for you. Our YouTube channel and our Facebook channel has tons and tons of these shows now through the years as we try to go to camera. Mike and Ross.
Jim, I just looked it up. September 8th, 2015 was a Tuesday.
Okay, so you know what I mean. I was wondering that. There goes Mike, right? Mike, I think, Mike, you've been with me for almost 7 years now, if I'm not mistaken, or we're going into our 8th year. Ross, you've been with me for 10 years. Johnny, 11, every single day from day one. So I can't wait till we go over some stories. I have 4 or 5 of my favorite Florida Talk real estate stories that I pulled out. So I was hoping that we could talk about them, some really funny stories.
Can I tell you, as I woke up this morning, I started thinking about 11 years. Can I just give you a funny little quip?
Yes,
and
please.
It's going to be really funny for those that have been with us the whole time. But in our first year, we were really getting a dose of the real radio audience. So for those that have been with this radio station long enough, it was built on the love doctors who have since retired. That was the cornerstone. Caller driven. Call about kind of anything you want. There's no screening of phone calls. And we dove in as a real estate related show that's trying to help people on a platform that doesn't screen phone calls. So you never knew what was going to happen when we hit that little. So I had a little bit of experience as a host. On the
Yes, a
station.
little bit.
I was aware of what we were stepping into. Jim was too, longtime listener of the radio station. So it wasn't like he was completely unprepared for what might happen. But we had one serial caller who would come in
love that.
and he would slip past the producer at the time. Jimmy's, I call him producer extraordinary because Jimmy's so good at what he does. If you need him to produce a package, boom. You need him to wow an audience with sound bites and just quick draw, boom. He is a phenomenal producer. And he's also picked up, like me over the years, the ability to, oh, I know that voice. You're not getting over on me. But this one dude, and he might still be listening, he would call in and his take was always about an old personality on the station who was only on Saturdays, NFLer, Miami Hurricane legend, running back Cleveland Gary.
Yep,
was
I remember
one of the
that.
first guys on The Locker Room, which is the show that follows us, Greek and Jimmy and Joe. Well, when it started, like 11 years ago, it was Cleveland Gary, Greek, and a couple of other guys, right? Obviously, G is like the mainstay now, but Cleveland Gary, running back for the Miami Hurricanes, he was a Ram, Dolphin. Like he had an NFL career. He has some name recognition, but Cleve will get referenced every weekend and tied in with Jim's old partner, Rob Egan. And this caller would like to reference Cleveland Gary like in a locker room type setting. So imagine him with very little clothes on, maybe no clothes on, and tie Rob Egan to a naked Cleveland Gary, touching all kinds of personal parts. It was hilarious to me. It was hilarious to many in the audience. But it was rough on Rob.
He got so mad.
Like, oh, and if you're watching on the video, you can see like some of the, oh my God, what are we doing right now? But it was that like introduction to real radio, like, hey, know where you're at. These are the people around you. These are the people you're going to help. But man, did they throw us right into the fire when it comes to open phone calls on this radio station.
I'm gonna share that story when we do the anniversary show. I'm gonna start off because this is how I was gonna start off today. Right, was the drive. The first day we were gonna start the show on January 7th, 2012, and we drove up here. Me and Rob drove up here in this really dilapidated piece of junk 350Z convertible.
Driving to Port St. Lucie. The studio was in
We didn't know if the car was going to make it for sure.
Yeah.
And Rob was white knuckled the whole way up here thinking, oh my God, we're going to go live in just a little bit. We're driving from Broward County to St. Lucie and terrified on the way up there. And there's a funny little story about the calls and the whole live calling thing. So we're going to talk about that when we do the show, when we do the anniversary show. I'm sorry that we're going to pass on it, but I really want this show to be special, and there's going to be a lot of really good entertainment on the show, believe me. And that guy,
what I'm telling you, when I was getting ready this morning, I'm like, oh man, 11 years ago, and instantly that's the first thing that popped into my mind. I'm like,
but that guy popped into my mind too, Johnny, to be honest with you, because I was thinking about this today because our show was originally called Talk Real Estate with Rob and Jim. That's how this show started. And then and there's a funny story behind that, and I'll tell you that story too if you want to hear it. But Rob would get so upset with that caller that at one point he said to me off the air, am I going to have to hire a private investigator to find out who this guy is? And he was serious. And I'm like, Rob, the guy's just, it's the radio show Stick for Real Radio. This is what happens. They just haven't you heard him ever remember how they used to rag on Dano so bad?
Sure.
Like when he was on the Love Dog, they just rag on him really, really bad. That was part of the thing. It was part of the fun. It was like a bit almost, right?
Yeah. And the whole time, and now after like the third call, I'm like, oh, I know who this is.
Yeah. And the funny part is, let me tell the audience this thing about Johnny. He never tells me. I've asked him a million times who that guy is. He won't tell me. Right. Like the Paul Lynde guy, right? The guy, whoever Paul Lynde is on the Facebook fan and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He won't tell me who that is. So don't ask me. Like, if you think I'm getting inside stuff, I ain't having it.
No,
Wait, you know who it is, Johnny?
What's that?
You know who it was, the caller?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you seen him in like live events or whatever?
I can text him right now. I send him Christmas cards with my family's picture on it.
And Rob's thinking he's going to get a private investigator to go track this guy down. to have a cease. He wanted to do a restraining order. I go, for what? Calling up the phone, and I go, at least the guy's saying you're well endowed instead of not well endowed. That's what I used to tell him. I go, it could be worse. He could be saying the opposite. So anyway, that was funny.
Well, listen, I think that information could be had with the right motivation, Jim. You gotta grease Johnny's wheels somehow.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe so. So, but anyway, sorry. Sorry, we're not going to have the show this week. I had a bunch of people that were going to make a call today, so I'm sorry that I put you all through that, and then now I can't do it. But I promise I'm going to be bugging and coming back to you again, so be prepared. Okay. I wanted to go over. I wanted to just talk a little bit about what's happening in the market and kind of what's going on with that. So,
Jim, just and then look, everybody's kind of got a little behind the scenes look of our technical issues. Yeah. We have a couple of people on hold.
Oh, great!
We don't know. They just dropped
we can
off.
Hear Jimmy. We should be able to take the call.
Jimothy said they just dropped off. So the people that were supposed to call for the show, I'm just going to ask you to hold off, because I really just want to do it in that one segmented show, because it was the one time I actually did halfway decent show prep. And then the whole thing fell apart. It's like I actually did decent show prep this week. So let's just hold off on all those calls, people. And thank you so much for sticking by for an hour and trying to get in. So I appreciate it. But we're going to do the reset on that. But if you have any kind of real estate calls, or you just want to call the show for any other reason, just give us a call. We'd love to take your call live on air for that.
Wait, so when you call in, you have to tell Jimothy whether you were a scheduled call or an unscheduled call.
No, you don't have
only
to do
the
that.
unscheduled calls are getting through.
That's right.
We're blocking all the
927.
No, that isn't right.
Wait, do that again, Johnny.
877-927-6969. If you were planning on calling and we knew you were going to, don't. But if you were like, random, go ahead.
Or if you were planning on calling, but then you decided that you have a random comment, not what you were originally going to call about, then you could call then for that too.
Yeah, that's cool. Just don't bring
to
it
make
up
it more
anything you were planning on
complicated.
bringing up. Right.
Yeah, just to make it more complicated, right? Like the day has been complicated enough. So I want to just go over round robin first on a couple things. Okay, so homeowners insurance. Oh, Ross, I have a question for you about homeowners insurance. Okay.
It's
have a person, Bailey, actually it's a family. So this family, it's actually a very good story. So let's just get into this, because it's a story that hopefully people can learn from, and what we're doing trying to help this family. So there was a family that came to us, Bailey and Martin came to us. They listened to the show. They're show listeners, and they came to us last summer and said, we're thinking about selling our home and then buying a new home, but we're not sure how this is going to work. We really want to understand your seller buyer program. And I say seller buyer fast, because seller buyer means you're selling your house. You need the money from that house, that sale, in order to buy your new home. And if you don't structure this all perfectly, you're going to be homeless somewhere along the way. So you try not to be homeless by doing what's called a simultaneous close, where you sell your home on the same day that you're buying your new home with the money you're using from the sale of the home. Okay. So that's one of the techniques that they thought might be an option for them. So they wanted to go through all their options, which we always do. We always go through all the people's options, not just the options that's good for the realtor. So Mike, they met with Mike. Mike did a little bit of, Mike didn't even have a chance to really go over their stuff, because after I gave them the consultation, what they decided to do was not use any of us, which was okay. And this is the point I'm trying to make. They got all their options, and they felt at the time the best option was not to use us at all, right? So the way they were going to do it was they decided they were going to buy a new construction home, and the developer that they were going to buy the home from was had their own in-house financing, where they offer incentives that Mike just can't offer because it's a special developer deal for new construction. So they decided to buy the new construction home, and they decided that they weren't going to sell their home at all, that they were going to rent the home. Okay. So we broke off contact at that point. No hard feelings or anything. And they told us what their decision was. Like, great, glad that that's working out for you. So we got a call last week, kind of a little bit of a panic call from the family saying, our relatives have sold their other home. We are ready to close on our new home. We're supposed to close roughly March. We decided that we were going to sell our home to a relative, but now the relative can't get financing. So Jim, I put the house on for sale by owner. I put it on, I listed it as a flat listing fee, which means they just paid a couple $100 and then some realtor throws it on the MLS, but then has no other responsibility with it. And they're like, and we need a buyer and I got to be able to close this at this price. And she gave me a number by March 1st. And I'm like, holy moly. First thing that popped in my head was that's not a lot of time in today's market to get the deal closed if you put the house on the market. And then without even knowing exactly all the details of her house, I'm sorry, my phone is blowing up, guys. On details on the house is I knew right away that I thought it might be overpriced what they thought they needed to get. And then they told me that's what they needed to get in order to buy the new home that they were buying. So then I became very concerned that, oh my gosh, if they can't perform on this, the developer could take their deposit, walk away from them, keep their deposit, and then sell the house to somebody else. That could happen. So there's a lot of risk here, right? Now, Mike, you and I have already, when we were driving around and I was talking to you about this situation last week, I had two situations last year where the people couldn't close on time with the developer. And one of the people was Denise. And Denise was able, or it might have been 2 years ago, but Denise, the developer, did push the closing down the road for us a little bit so that we can make it happen. Okay. But then the second person we had, the developer kept the person's deposit because they couldn't close on time. And then they sold it to somebody else for more money, right? So the developer did pretty good on that. Now, Mike, you even had a case where something similar like that happened, right?
Yeah, I think the when you get into a purchase contract with the home builders, they have a contract that's actually very favorable to them as far as close dates and kind of your responsibilities to perform your end of the deal. And they kind of hold all the cards, right, Jim? So they can say, hey, listen, it kind of depends what's their next step. They could say, if you can't close on time, you're either going to pay per diem fees until you close, or we'll just cancel and we'll sell it to somebody else. And they have a lot of power per their contract. So yeah, we had that situation. You and I talked about it, and with the right team, you can get them to move a little bit, but sometimes they won't.
So this is pretty big boy stuff we're talking about, right? We're talking about real stuff, right?
Thousands of dollars on the line. Yeah.
And in this case, I don't want to go into too much detail, but this family has put tens of thousands of dollars, tens and tens of thousands of dollars as deposit for this property.
In the kitty. Yeah.
Now, here's the weird thing. She told me that she originally met with the realtor at the developer and told them that she needed a contingency, that she needed to sell her house to buy the house. Then by the time they negotiated to do the deal and signed the contract, that realtor was gone and there was a second realtor involved. But when the people signed the contract, according to the family, they never met with the realtor, and they did everything through the developer without the realtor as far as the contract, and it was all done by email electronically. So the family couldn't tell me if there was a contingency that gave them an out if their house didn't sell. But she told the original realtor that that's what she wanted, but she doesn't know if there's an actual form on from the Florida Association of Realtors that deals with that. If you need an out saying, hey, I want to buy your house, Mike, but I need to sell my house in order to finance your house. So if my house doesn't close, I want to be able to walk away from your contract and get my deposit back.
Yeah.
If that happens, and there's a form for that. And it looks like she didn't sign that. The family never signed that. So even though she thought she had the contingency, she doesn't.
Yeah. And I mean, you run into that a lot, Jim. So I think a lot of people, when everything goes well in a transaction, you don't need the professionals, right? Like everything goes according to plan, and you can say, hey, this was easy, right? Like, why do I got to pay? Why do I have to pay a real estate agent? Why do I got to, have commissions or whatever involved? And it's only when stuff doesn't go well that you really, right? Like you find out after the fact, wait a second, darn, I should have had a professional looking at this stuff when I was doing it in the first place. So one of, there's several contingencies in a standard contract, but the builder contracts are different. I'm not like villainizing the builders. The builders just, they want, to get people kind of like committed, right? And so how do you get people committed? You put a lot of money at stake and you say, hey, you're going to perform on this date. Otherwise, there's going to be some repercussions. And
what do they call that? Skin in the game?
Yeah, skin in the game. Sure.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
you got to show you're serious.
Yeah, and this family's got skin and bones and muscle tissue and everything in the game right now. So here's the thing. This is the advice I gave them. Now, here's the other thing. What they need from the sale of their house, based on the sales in the neighborhood, is possibly doable. But when you add in all the costs for selling a house in a traditional way, meaning real estate commissions, the real estate commissions is really pushing them out of the price that's probably going to sell for in order to get all the money they need. So what they really, in a way, they kind of, it would be best for them if they could do for sale by owner, right? Because if they could not pay any real estate commissions, they would probably be better off in their situation. But there's a lot of risk in that because they already don't understand contracts very well anyway, as proven by the developer situation. So if they were doing it just by themselves, first of all, the advertising they put up on the internet, when I checked out the property, there's 3 different prices on 3 different websites for that property for sale by owner. Plus the Zestimates and the Trulia valuations and Realtor.com evaluations and all that, they're tens and tens of thousands below what they're trying to ask for, which really hurts you when you're a for sale by owner.
Yeah.
Because when you're a for sale by owner, the only people who are looking at it are very usually not realtors. It's usually regular people. So regular people believe in those estimates. And I'm making up number here. So if you have your house on the market for $1 million and Zestimate's saying it's worth $753,000, people that really, in my opinion, it damages the value of your home. And I don't know how those companies get away with it. I'm being honest with you. I don't know how they get away with it.
Yeah, and what's funny, I don't know any of the real details of the deal, but remember that getting into contract is not what you're after. You want to get into a contract that closes. Right? And so you had mentioned that they were in a contract selling to a family member or somebody related, and that person's financing didn't go through. And that's something that as a listing agent, you're looking for, right? It's not just about like signing a contract. Oh, you're going to buy the home for this value. Great. Can you actually close? And so Jim would have been saying, well, wait a second, this buyer, can they actually, can they close? You got a pre-approval letter? All right, let me talk to the lender. Let me make sure that they're actually able to do this thing. And so it's
maybe Mike, maybe as far as, do you mind, can I have Mike look at their finances?
Yeah.
Have my guy verify we're going to close.
Right. So what we ended up doing is, so this is how I've been able to help the family, and I haven't even signed an agreement with them yet. So this just shows you about the help that this one-stop real estate shop we created here on the Florida Talk Real Estate Show helps people. I told her that she would probably be better off. She did have an outside buyer that was cash, right? But it wasn't at a price that they really, really want. But it might be the price that works for them. Okay. But I really felt like they were not heading in the right direction in this situation. So this is what I told them. I said, you got to go back to your mortgage broker for the developer and find out, or the loan officer, and find out how long your interest rate is locked in for, right? Because she had an okay interest rate, and that was really going to affect her purchasing power if it had changed. So I asked her to do that. The other thing I asked her to do is to go to the realtor and find out if there was a contingency in there or not about selling her home as she expected. And then I also told her to ask the realtor if there was any way that they might be able to extend the closing if they needed it, because their original house sale fell apart and now they got to put it back on the market. The realtor wasn't real helpful. The realtor basically gave them answers that didn't give me warm fuzzies about it. It was like, we might have to, the family might have to perform or end up losing the deal. Now, the one thing that's good is, and I don't want to talk about this developer yet, but this developer is really well known, but this particular community they're moving into, there are several places that are already fully built that haven't been bought yet, which is kind of unusual for the new construction. So they might give them more time, because it isn't like people are beating down the doors to buy in this community. So they might have a little room. The developer might say, yeah, if you need an extra 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we'll give it to you. Maybe that'll happen. So I have them working on all that. Then they gave me the buyer that was the cash buyer that was not represented by an agent. And then I called them up yesterday and we had a very long conversation about trying to buy the property. And I'm going to try to marry the two people together, the cash buyer who doesn't have an agent, who is a sharp person, very sharp, but she's struggling with some other things and she didn't know how to get to the point where she can make a contract happen. And then I have the sellers who really need some guidance to make sure that whoever they put can actually close, because that's what Mike was saying, is that we don't have the luxury of getting into contract and not closing again, because we have the deadline of the developer breathing down the family's neck.
Jim, I think you started this story with insurance. What's the insurance?
Yeah, sorry. So here's the insurance question, Ross. The new construction home, they're saying that the new construction home insurance policy, wait, hold on. Oh, because it was bundled with the car and everything, I felt like the new construction insurance policy was too high. It was in the, if I can't remember off the top of my head, but I thought it was in the 3,000s. And it isn't a gigantic home or anything. And I thought that was kind of high, but it was bundled with their car and everything. So I told them that they should come talk to you and see what you could do for them for the new construction insurance. Do you see many $3,000 policies for brand new construction?
I mean, it all depends on what that dwelling coverage is. I mean,
Okay. Okay. So
and the location, whatever that zip code is, and whatever that dwelling coverage is.
Is it,
that
Jim, is it
zip code
on,
could
is it on
massively
the
affect
beach?
your auto insurance too.
I'm sorry.
I said the zip's going to massively affect their auto insurance too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you say, Mike?
Is it on the beach on stilts?
No. It's in a decent. No, it's in a good area. You don't have to worry about flood zones or anything.
I would say this. So when I hear like they're worried about the interest rate, that has to do with DTI, right? So debt to income. So they're really tight. They're maybe pushing their limits on the payment. And so, of course, one of the big factors that is potentially, movable is the insurance. Now, Ross, if you told me brand new construction home, what's a good number on insurance? I would not put a 3 in front of that, Jim. I would say I might even have like $1,500.
That's what I was thinking, like 1,700.
Right? If I'm just in my mind thinking that.
Yeah.
But of course, it is dependent on the dwelling coverage and dependent on the zip code. But Ross, what's like, without knowing anything about it, what's a number you would think of?
I mean, I was thinking somewhere in the low 2s, just kind of off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to have them check that just to help out that way. They're really trying to do a really great thing. The family's like, when they accomplish this, and I have confidence they will, it's going to be a great thing. What they did is they merged I know somebody else that's trying to do this. The parents sold the house. The kids are selling a house. They're going to turn into a multi-generational property. And that's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to keep the mortgage payment as low as possible. So that's why they're wanting so much for their house, is they want the lowest loan possible that the developer offers. But the problem I have is for them, what I'm concerned about with them is I don't know if they're going to get that number. And even if they don't get that number, they're still in a very good position, I think, financially to move forward with the deal. And they have their deposit at risk. So that's why I'm really trying to make sure. So it'll be interesting. It's just another story. It's just another great Florida Talk real estate story. People need help. They come to us. We're there. We're jumping in and trying to make it happen for them.
But I do want to highlight, though, I love, there's layers that I love, but it's one of the stories that starts with the part I don't like, where you're connected to Florida Talk Real Estate and then go, nah, I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to do it differently. And then you got to scramble to come back at the end and be like, pull off miracles for us, please. Like, I know the team of pros at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, your one-stop real estate shop. They're going to find a way to make you whole at the end if it's possible. And again, options too. Like, what are the things that can be done? That's the beauty of the team and the multiverses that they can touch. But when it starts with, we were gonna, but we decided to go this way instead. And then you come in this, like, what am I going to do scenario? I love that, but I hate it as well, because it's like, man, you were on the right path. You were going to where you wanted to get done the right way, and then shifted somehow. It's usually in the name of either friends or money. And in this case, it was money. And I can appreciate that. Everybody wants to maximize the profits, the proceeds in the sale of their home. They want to sell for the most, they want to buy for the least, and they want to maximize their proceeds. But you find yourself in stories like these where you're like, ooh, that's a rough spot to be in. Jim highlighted, like, they are in a really rough spot right now. Hopefully things work out, and I'm glad they're working with Jim and the team right now. But I think the real important part there was they were right on the cusp of being with great hands.
If they had just
shifted thoughts.
And just to be fair, it isn't that they didn't want to use me and they weren't just trying to save money, because at first they were going to rent the place, right? So at first they were just going to rent.
Well, they had the deal with the family, right? But
right, and then the second thing was, and this is just a very common mistake people make. And Johnny, you're bringing up a very good point. So that's why I'm trying to emphasize it. A lot of people go, well, it's my relative. What do I need somebody for? But if we had been there, right, what would have happened was, we would have made sure that the financing was good way, way earlier.
Yep.
Right? Because they've known since last summer that they were buying this house. I mean, that they were buying the new construction home. So we had, at that time, from July basically, or August or something, all the way until right now to deal with this problem. But now we're dealing with the problem right at the end when they got 60 days before they're closing. This should have been found out when they were 7 months out from closing.
Right.
And then if we had a problem, boom, we could have pivoted. But now the pivot points are very, very tight and very fast and very severe, right? So if they had come to us originally, this was what would have happened. Hey, Jim, we decided that we weren't going to rent our house. We're going to sell our house. And in fact, we have our relative that's going to buy it. I would have stepped in at a very reduced commission, because if the prices were already haggled out and the buyer was really buying, and we checked them out and we found out that the buyer's not going to have any problem, then, and that way we would do that is go to Mike, right? We'd go to Mike, make sure that financing was good, right? Then we would have made sure that it was really good by going to Ross and making sure the insurance policy was okay.
Yep.
And then if everything was okay, we move forward. But if we found out we had a problem, then we could have either fixed it for the seller or for the new buyer, if it's fixable.
Right.
And if it isn't, then we could have went to the seller and say, hey, look, we got to put this on the market and get the most money possible from somebody else as fast as we can. And that's how we would have done it. And they wouldn't have been in the 60-day time crunch trying to figure everything out in the last 60 days. I'm pretty sure it's going to work all out, because they do have more options. They're trying to stick to their Beautiful World plan. And if it works, we still have a chance to do the Beautiful World. But if it turns into a pretty darn good world plan instead of the Beautiful World plan, they're still going to be fine, and they're going to be doing what they wanted, which is to merge with families and live together in a brand new construction home where they don't have to worry about maintenance or anything for a very long time.
I sure hope so. I'd love to hear the shout out in the 2 months from now.
I was going to say, I feel like when you said a Beautiful World, but it's like, hey, we're going to buy this new home. We're putting a big down payment, right? And then if it turns out you can't put such a big down payment, what are your options? I feel like there's options, right? Like, okay, so you're not putting as big a down payment, so you're not gonna have as much money as you thought. How can we put this together so it still works? So I feel like they're gonna have solutions there, but they got to sell the house. They got to sell the house. Sounds
yeah. And it's going to be very interesting. This buyer is very interesting. This match, it's going to be interesting if I can put this one together or not. There's some bumps in the road. It's kind of interesting because the buyer, it's a very nice home, right? They really fixed it up nice. But the buyer has been looking for a year. She's not represented really with an agent. And she doesn't control the money because her relative is paying cash for this property for them. So they're on a fixed budget that's movable. And they really like this house, but it's not their favorite house because they don't have the budget to get what they want, right? Like to get everything they want. But this checks off a great majority. So the buyer's not in love with the house, got to have the house, got to buy it. And the sellers need a certain amount or they can't make it work. So we're going to have to see if this thing matches or not. So it'll be interesting. That's what I love about this job. It's different all the time. But
the other
it's
thing
just
Jim, is the like you've talked about it many times through the years. Like, what is if you're doing for sale by owner, are you selling for top dollar? And I think there was a time in the past few years where maybe you could have made top dollar without representation because it was a very strong seller's market. But now we're shifted back into a normal market, and so selling with Jim versus selling on your own, like, yeah, you're going to save money, but that's the old, like, what percentage are you selling under what you should be selling, right? Having an agent represent you to get top dollar and sell it fast and get into a contract that closes.
One of the things I did is that I called 7 agents in that neighborhood before I even met the family to find out what's going on in the neighborhood with sales. And I talked to a couple that were pending, and I talked to 4 that were active and 1 closed. And the 4 that were active, I found out that there's a lot of people going to look at the houses, but they're not actually turning in offers at the higher numbers that they're putting the house on the market for. There's one house in that neighborhood that went on the market for $450, and now it's selling for it's closing at $375 next week.
Ooh.
So that's a big drop, right? 75 grand. The problem was it shouldn't have been up at 450 in the first place.
Yeah.
It wasn't a 450 house. And that family took 100 days to find out what the real price was. And the funny part, what that person said was, I kept, no matter what I priced the house at, no matter how many times I dropped the price, everybody turned in the same, a range of 375 to 385 for the house. So when it was at 450, he would get offers 375 to 385, right? When he had the house priced at 390, he was getting 375 to 385, right? So you kind of knew what the house was worth, but the family just wanted more. And they waited and waited and waited, and it just wasn't happening. And they have to keep dropping the price.
What did it appraise for?
I'm sorry?
What did it appraise for?
Oh, the 450?
Yeah.
Actually, thank you for bringing that up because that's the one. It appraised at, they're closing at 375, but it appraised at 355. So this family's even paying 20 grand above. Yeah. So, which is kind of, yeah. So this is a very weird time in real estate markets. So you have to really know your numbers, and an agent really has to know how to get the house sold. So this family, they don't have time to kind of explore what, the other family, they had apparently had 100 days, and it took them 100 days to realize that their house wasn't worth 450.
Well, and I got to tell you, I mean, I think in this market to get what did they close at 375, 25,000 over appraisal. That's pretty solid.
20 over appraisal, which still did okay.
Solid.
Yeah. So now
we're in a world of concessions right now for sellers,
Well, let's talk about that
and
for a second.
They got 20,000 over appraisal. I think they crushed.
There was an article in Axios. It's Axios or Axios? I don't know. How do you pronounce that? That news service. Okay?
Johnny sent us a link, sent us an article and I read that, Johnny. I didn't reply to your text, but I read that and I was like, yeah, that I think we are in that world. Now, is it surprising? Is it different than where we were in a normal market 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Like, I think it was all pretty standard stuff.
What I forgot, I know that Johnny sent it, but it's been a crazy day today. What article was that again?
So that was the one on about concessions for sellers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so
what I found really fascinating in the article was how, like, the concessions don't come into play on the sale price. It's still like, say, $450, right? If it closes at $450, but you gave $100,000 in concessions, it's still closed for $450. That, like, kind of blew my mind in a way. It's quite a manipulation in the marketplace.
It is, Johnny, but I'll tell you. So the 450 closed sale is a comp, right? But appraisers are tasked when they're looking at their comps at looking, were there concessions in the previous sale?
There's actually a section in the listing, Johnny, where it says concessions, seller concessions, yes or no, and then how much and what for.
That's right. And appraisers are meant to look at that and fill out that when they're putting it in their comparable section. So
when you do a closed sale, when you do a closed sale, you have to put that in there?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's in there. It's on the third right on the listing. Yeah. It's on the third right part of the screen at the top third.
Now, I think it's kind of an honor system, right? Like, I don't think anybody's going and policing whether agents are completing that.
That part's true. Properly. And frankly, I think getting back to Johnny's point, I think it should be mandatory because it does affect the market.
I don't think it should be. I don't think the closed sale should be void of the concessions. It should be they should include the concessions because that's the closed sale.
Well,
it does. That's the way it's supposed to work, Johnny.
Right.
So it does rely on the human factor, the agent going in and actually filling out that closing information properly.
But that should be in my thing, that should be mandatory, that the realtor has a legal obligation to fill that out and not ignore it. But the thing you have to also remember, Johnny, is the house probably still appraised probably at the 450, and then they got a concession, right, Mike? If it was a finance deal, and let's say the seller was given $20,000 back, it still had it appraised at 450.
Now there is no data point that says what did it appraise at. Right. Like there's nothing in there in the listing like, hey, we got into contract at this amount, we had this much seller concession, and it was financed and it was sold, it was appraised at this value. Like, that piece of information is not there. So it's a little bit of mystery on that point. But.
And the other thing, Johnny, you can flip the other way. I understand that you feel like it's going to skew it like too high for too strong of a market.
Because if you're offering, it can skew it.
I'm sorry?
It's kind of the only way it can skew it.
Well, it could go the other way too. What happens if you sell the house for $450, but it appraised at $485? So the $450 isn't a real reflection of what the what the market thinks the house is worth. They sold it under.
It closed for less than it was appraised.
Right, but so when you're doing comps, because that's what it kind of looks like to me.
So if things are closing less than appraisal, theoretically, it should be practically, but in theory, your appraisals are going to all start coming down because the market's showing you they're not paying what it's appraised. So that's how it works, right? If we pay more, the appraisals go up. If we pay less, the appraisals go down. How does it work both ways?
Well, it works both ways. The way I look at it, if you're in a neighbor, unless everybody started selling below appraised value, then yes, then the prices would go down. But if you have certain houses, every once in a while I look at a neighborhood and I'm looking at a comp, I'm like, why the heck did that house sell for so low?
Sure.
Like, how the hell did that happen? And I usually it's because it's a relative involved, right? A relative selling to another relative or something. But sometimes you wonder, how the heck did that happen? Like, how did they sell for that? Right.
Or need, necessity, timing. Like, there's all kinds of variables, right? They gotta sell. They can't wait for highest and best. They gotta do it now.
But let's talk about those seller concessions, because this article, thank you guys for sending it to me, because I didn't catch this one. But there was a couple things I was surprised about. What this article is saying for the listeners is that that we're seeing that what's the headline was crazy. Home sellers are basically throwing money at buyers right now. And I was like, wait a second, I know that people are getting concessions. We've been talking about that for several months, that concessions are starting to happen. And now they're becoming even more common. But this is the things I found very interesting. Right now, 42% of the sellers offer at least some type of concession, right? Now,
I wasn't surprised by that, Jim. I wasn't surprised because
well,
that could
wait,
be.
but wait, what do you? The year ago numbers what surprised me, not the 42%. It was 31% a year ago. I'm sorry, guys, I don't remember 3 out of 10 homes getting some kind of concession. Maybe I'm a good listing agent because I didn't give anybody a concession, right? I gave hardly any when I
But
say
it could be as simple
My
as,
deals-
$250 after a home inspection because they gotta, do some minor work, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe needs a plumber out to fix some sink stuff, right? Because we'll pay $250 for that, right? We're not talking. It doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of dollars.
Okay,
of
maybe
credit from the
that then.
seller to the
Okay.
buyer,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I can understand that. Then I can see 3 out of 10. But right now there's like 42% of the sellers right now. Now this is according to Redfin, so I'm kind of rolling my eyes a little bit, but it's in the news, okay? Because I don't trust Redfin, I don't trust Zillow, I don't trust Trulia, I don't trust Realtor.com. I can go on with some other sites. Those sites, if you're relying anything related to real estate, check their record about buying homes and selling homes, and then come back to me and tell me you want to listen to what they have to say. Because
Jim, it sounds like you have trust issues.
when you lose billions and billions and billions of dollars saying you're going to break into the real estate market and crush the realtors, right? Crush the people that are paying for your services, and then you suck, you deserve everything I'm saying right now.
That was the thing I never got with them. Like, hey, their bread and butter was subscription fees from real estate agents, and they're like, hey, we're going to put you guys out of business.
Yeah,
Wow,
then they're like, they're going to
doesn't
put
make
your
sense.
stuff out of business, and they're like, oh, you actually have to know something to be a realtor? That was nice $1 billion of lessons for them. I'm telling you, Gary Keller should have just bought Zillow when he had the chance. He should have just bought Zillow instead of do the stuff he did. That's the owner of our company, Keller Williams Realty. They were thinking at one point many years ago about buying Zillow. They should have just bought it and then shut it down. As far as I'm concerned, it's crazy. Anyway,
snub it out.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. I just looked at a person's house where that did happen. They had it on Zillow, and they have it at a certain price, and I looked at it, and Zillow has it priced $50,000 below where they're at. And that price is wrong. I can get 7-8% more than that right now, guaranteed. And pretty quickly.
Guaranteed or guaranteed?
Guaranteed. Yeah. So the whole thing is crazy. But
I sent another article this week, and I said it for a reason because I wanted to ask Mike a question in regards to it. The other article I sent you guys this week was in regards to like debt to income situations for folks, and it was about car payments specifically.
Oh yes, that's what I remember.
So Mike sees a lot of credit reports. He works on debt to income for folks that are trying to buy a home. Student loan debt has been a big hurdle for many years for many folks. And we try to always tell you, hey, go to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Let's see if Krasker Law can help you with the student loan program. We have so many success stories. It's about ability to pay. They give you really specific, precise numbers. It's a real simple process. Again, if you're dealing with student loan debt, go to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. See if that's something that you can, take a little weight off your shoulders. But the one that was staggering to me was this. We always pay attention to, the revolving credit situations, and specifically people that are on the hook for a lot of money with their vehicles. I was stunned to see that people are mounting more and more of these $1,000 a month car payments. Mike, is that real? Like, are you seeing? I know a lot of real expensive trucks. Guys and gals will have like $700, but I'm thinking $1,000 a month. I'm thinking you're in like super luxury vehicle. How common is this now?
I don't see a lot of $1,000 car payments. Okay, but I definitely see more and more of the $650, $700, $725 car payments, and that's because they're buying, a $60-something thousand vehicle on a 4 or 5 year loan. And maybe the interest rate isn't great. I mean, so I definitely see that, Johnny. It's the days of the $250 car payment are long gone. Long gone.
Yeah, and are we going to see this more and more as the interest rates are starting to push up? Are they going to end up getting? I want this car. I work hard. I deserve it. And right, you're right. You do. You deserve some nice things. You do work hard. But if they say, "Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and bite the bullet, $900 a month for this, whatever," and then they go to buy a home, as maybe interest rates for their home buying maybe get a little bit more favorable, that's going to position them very differently, right? I mean, potentially.
Johnny, if you have a let me do the easy math, right? So you get a $700 car payment. That is the difference between qualifying for a mortgage payment of $2,300 versus $3,000, right?
Huge.
Like that $700 on the debt side is like a dollar for dollar. You could get a mortgage payment of $3,000, or you get a mortgage payment of $2,300.
So it is. I mean, it's that simple. It's a dollar for dollar situation when you're dealing with the DTI.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, but people have to have cars. People have to drive. It's just like, what vehicle do you want or need? I mean, I happen to be in a multi-vehicle household because we have young drivers, right? And we have adult professionals, right? And so the car payments on one side versus, geez, I don't want a car payment, right? I'm going to buy something cash if you have the ability to do that. I'm going to get the beater, but more and more that's tough to find. People are getting new cars.
That article to me was more like a canary in a coal mine kind of situation, where it's like, this is ramping up. And if you're thinking I'm going to be buying a home in the next year, maybe two, getting into $1,000 a month car payment is not a great decision. And maybe you should be planting the seeds now. Get in with Mike, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm,
or the other one,
FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, to be like, hey, Mike, I'm going to need a car. What can I afford? Assuming interest rates for a home will be at this. And you need to assume where they're going to be is like right now's numbers, right?
Yeah, I think I'll tell you one thing. So let's say you have young drivers in your household. Do you co-sign with them on your car, right? Do you co-sign for a family member? And I would say, let's talk before you make a decision like that. There are other ways to get your young credit user the ability to get a loan without having to co-sign for them. So that's actually, if we could do a whole segment on that type of thing. But yeah, I see that, Johnny. Like we co-signed for my teenage driver, and I'm like, well, now you got a $500 car payment.
And that applies for even co-signing on their student loan debt, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing that Parent Plus style loan, which a lot of people do. Yeah,
because you're always looking to help your kiddos out. I mean, that's what we do as parents, right? We try to set them up for success more than we had. I mean, that's kind of just inherently what we do. But you can really put yourself behind the eight ball just trying to be the dad of the year.
That's right. And some people think that's the only way to do it. And I would say, no, prep your young driver to be able to get their own loan without needing a co-sign.
FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, y'all. That's the one-stop real estate shop, and it is a team of pros that have their expertise in their field, and it's got to be this perfect combination of knowledge and experience that comes together, especially in these. Look, real estate markets are always changing. Jim's been in it for 11 years of Florida Talk Real Estate here on Real Radio. The market has been so dramatically different, like every other, like we'll say 3-year cycle probably. It's just changing constantly. You got to know how to navigate the waters. And right now your finances, look, they always are. But man, with interest rates going up and the housing costs where they're at, negotiating prowess is needed, but you got to be financially positioned and you got to have pros to make sure your numbers are right. Numbers mean everything. Ross has got to tell you what your insurance is going to look like. Mike's got to know what your monthly obligation is going to be. Jim's got to know what you can afford and where we can look. Got to work together. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. It's been finely tuned over 11 years. It's the team I use. It's the team I will use for my next venture. We sold my mom's condo. We're going to be selling my house and buying a big, beautiful family complex. When? I don't know. But we'll learn together. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Jimmy D, you're muted. He is muted. You're muted.
He is muted.
Still
He's
muted.
talking though. Now, I know it's
I know I'm talking, but I'm muted. Russ, is there anything new going on in the insurance industry we need to know about, or anything? Yeah, I know that we've gone through so much, and it's pretty much we're going to probably be like that for a while. So there probably isn't going to be a lot of new stuff. But are you seeing anything that we need to know about?
I mean, nothing's gotten better or worse since.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good news. That's good news. It hasn't gotten
Not
worse.
getting worse is actually good news right now. So that's excellent news that it's not getting worse. The good news is that there isn't that much bad news. That's the good news, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So, but homeowners insurance is a big deal, guys. If you're thinking of selling your home or buying your home, including selling, okay, you got to think about property insurance and how property insurance might affect your transaction and know your facts. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to get an insurance quote from Ross. And you're thinking, oh, I already have an insurance policy on my house. Why would I need an insurance quote when I'm selling my house? Because your insurance quote, your current insurance policy means nothing during the new transaction. You have to start over again. And you don't want to have a surprise with your insurance because of the age of your house or the age of your roof or other issues with your house that could affect your insurance, and not take that into a factor of your transaction.
Yeah, I think the next issue for a lot of folks, what was the number you said a couple weeks ago, Ross, for the policies held for Citizens now?
Oh, what that number is? Oh, I don't think I threw one out there.
Or maybe it was a percentage, but it's been growing.
I did like an analysis like back in July where after 10 years, or I think it was in like 2019 in July, I had 250 Citizens policies. Over, that's 10 years of writing policies, and I had 250. And then I looked in July of this year and I had like 1,300.
Whew. So that's a considerable pop just for what you're holding and putting people on. So, and that's through necessity more than anything, I'm guessing. Options are pretty limited. Citizens is going to be hitting a lot of policyholders for up to 40% premium hikes. And
Citizens, they can only go up by, I think, 12% this year.
Okay,
Right. And then
good.
next year, 13%, the following year, 14%, and then they're capping at rate increases of 15%. Where people are seeing huge increases on their premium with Citizens is actually going back in and redoing the replacement cost estimator to update the dwelling coverage, or they're just blanketing like, okay, 30% increase on the dwelling coverage, and you've got to go in and kind of mess with it. But that's where people are seeing the increase, not on the rate.
Gotcha.
The coverage is going up.
Gotcha. So coverage is going up. So that makes sense. At least you're getting, I guess, better coverage.
Right.
So the facts is look, we got you covered at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. And if you're like, I got to get ahead of this stuff, you're being very smart. Reach out to the pros, see how things are looking for you, if there's better options or how you can position yourself in the future, whether you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or you're stuck with a home, you don't know what to do. Remember, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, your one-stop real estate shop. Ross Cameronets, have a great rest of your weekend, my friend. We'll celebrate 11 years for real here in a couple weeks.
All right, I'll keep my hat.
Yeah, good. I hope you do. Mike Round, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm, please do the same.
Yeah, I will do. I'm looking forward to that show, and sorry we didn't make it happen today, but it will come.
Yes, it sure will. Jimmy D is muted, but I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, my friend. And of course, looking forward to our big bonanza for the 11-year fest.
Thank you so much. And sorry to everybody that was going to call in today, but we'll do it again next time.
Thank you, Jimothy, for all your efforts always, my friend. And Jimothy's going to stick around. Greek and Joe are joining him. The locker room is next if you're listening on Real Radio. If you're not, make sure you're tuning in, and we'll be back. Great to have you with us every Saturday. Florida Talk Real Estate right here. It's Real Radio.
The visual age